A very good afternoon to everyone. I hope you're all doing well. And so today we'll be doing the fourth lab in our first quest. That is, the lab's name is Setup Network and HTTP Load Balancers. So first of all, let me just open this lab and we'll see what are its contents. So yeah, here in this lab, what we'll be doing is, so mentioned earlier, set up a network load balancer, set up a HTTP load balancer, get hands-on experience running the differences between network load balancers and HTTP load balancers. So among all the labs in this quest, I think this is the most difficult one. So do pay attention, and if you face any doubts in between when I'm mentioning something, please do interrupt me in between itself because it would be difficult for me to repeat everything once again. So just tell me whenever you want me to repeat anything or if you have a doubt. So let's just start the lab now. First of all, the initial setup that you have already learned, you learned in the previous labs, and you have been already taught by my partner, Preeti. So let's just continue and just skip over all the steps. So let's just jump right into the lab. So first of all, the first step that we need to do is set our default region and zone. So we have done this before multiple times. So it's a very simple command: C cloud config set compute zone to US Central 1A. So in this lab, our default zone will that the default zone will be using is the US Central 1A zone, and the region will be using is US Central 1A. Sorry, US Central 1. So once we are done with that, you'll get output like updated configuration compute slash zone and updated configuration compute slash region, and most probably should work. So next, what we need to do is we need to create an instance group. So just like we created a group of machines in previous lab that we called the Kubernetes cluster, we are going to do something like that in a like it's very similar to that, but it's not actually a Kubernetes clusters because uh, uh, we will be using VM instances in this and not the containers provided by the Kubernetes. So with just like we did in the first lab, we created a single VM instance. Over here, we'll be creating a group of VM instances, and together they'll be called as instance groups. So let's just proceed with that. So what are the steps we need to follow in order to create the instance group? So first of all, we need to specify a startup script. So what does the startup script specify? So let me just break it down for you. Just a minute. So here, yeah. So this you can just skip this line. It's just a way of saying in Linux that we want to input this data over here into a file named startup.sh. So it's a command line tool. It's a way of writing to a file in a command line. You can always use your favorite text editor or notepad or whatever is there. Or if you are using a CLI, then you can use VI or other text editors provided by Linux operating system. So first of all, this hash bin bash, this first line is telling the that basically this whole script will be executed by the bash. So the bash is the default shell used in a Linux system. You can also there are also option for using ZSH, and there are other shells available, but by default most of the Linux distributions offer you this bash shell. And since we'll be using a Debian operating system in this lab, so the default shell used in the Debian operating system is bash. So the path to that bash executable is bin bash. You do not worry about this. I'm just specifying it. Once you start using Linux in a day to day, you have start doing day to day use. Oh yeah, so I have got a question over here. What is Debian? So yeah, so Debian is a Linux distribution. So Linux is a kernel, and there are many operating systems built on top of that. You might have heard of Ubuntu, and Fedora and Debian. The Ubuntu is based on top of Debian. So there is Linux. This is Linux. There is Linux kernel, and someone took that Linux kernel and made an operating system out of it called the Debian operating system. And someone took that Debian operating system and made few changes out of made some changes to it and made the a new operating system called Ubuntu. You did not worry about what distribution to use right now, because by default we'll be using Debian Stretch. So you need not worry about that. But yeah, Debian is a Linux-based operating system. So yeah, and the next command is apt get update. So in Linux, the installation procedure is slightly different from Windows. In Windows, what we do is we download an exe file or some kind of zip file and then install out of it. In Linux, we have a package manager. So in Debian, the default package manager is apt, which is a full form for aptitude. So this apt package manager is used to manage packages, install them, delete them, update them, and other stuff like that. So apt get update command, what it does is it first checks if there are any updates available in my system that I need to fetch before installing this new software. So after the this command is executed, you will see a lot of output trying something like get this URL, and you will get a lot of lines when this command is done. After that, when this command is finished running, you can run this command. So you need not run this command. You just need to specify it in the startup file, and everything will get executed automatically. So apt get install -y nginx. So what we are trying to do over here is we are trying to install the nginx server. So apt get is basically a way to say that aptitude, this package manager, you need to get this file and install the this following package. And -y flag stands if it always asks you, if you don't specify this flag, it will ask you if you want to proceed with installation. If you provide this flag, it will not ask for your permission, and it will directly take it as a yes, and it will proceed directly, and you need not worry about pressing the Y key to proceed the installation. So we need to pass this Y flag, otherwise our installation will fail, because we are automating this installation procedure. So do not miss the Y flag. So in sometime in future, you might need to write these kind of startup.sh kind of files on your own. So I'm just making telling you to be cautious around such kind of stuff. So service nginx start. So once we install the nginx server, we need to start the service. So currently the nginx server, initially the nginx server will only be installed. In order to make it run, we need to specify this command. Just like you click an exe file in Windows and it starts running, the same way we need to start a service nginx server in order to make it run. So next, what over here is, you can totally skip this step if you want, but it's just it's just a cherry on top basically. So what it does is, by default nginx server serves this file whenever you visit the URL at port 80, or basically whenever you try to HTTP into nginx server, the default file which is served is this, where www.html index.nginx debian html. So this file gets served. So over here, what we're trying to do is, in this file, wherever nginx is there, so we keep the way how we use find and replace in Windows, it is doing the same thing. So what it will do is, it will find nginx in the whole file and replace it with Google Cloud Platform and this host name string. So this host name string is, it's an environment variable. I'll not go into depth what are environment variables, but it's something, and it's just identification for your current machine. So you need not worry about that. You can just replace the nginx with Google Cloud Platform. So do you have any doubts with what this startup script does? So if you have any doubts, I can tell you that, and if not, then I can proceed. So do you guys have any doubts? No. Okay, cool. So let's just proceed with the next step. So here what we are doing is, we are creating an instance template. So what is an instance template? So just like how we created a single VM instance, in that we needed to specify everything, right? Because we need to specify what kind of machine we wanted, like N1 standard one, and what region and zone we want to set up our machine in, and what operating system we want, and how much disk space is required. So those are all the configuration of your VM instance. So by default, we need to so in order to create a VM instance, first we need to specify what kind of configuration we want in that VM instance. So in order to provide that configuration, we need to first create a template. So template basically, it's a structure of your VM instance, which will when a VM instance comes up, it will have the following configuration, whatever we specify in our template. So in the command to create the instance template is as follows. So gcloud, the default gcloud CLI command. Compute. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to use the compute engine to set up a VM instance. So here we specify compute. Next we have instance template. So we need to specify what we're trying to do with the compute engine. So here we're telling that we want to do something with instance templates, and then we specify what we want to do with the instance template. So here we're trying to create an instance template, and then we specify the name of that instance template. So here we are by default using the name nginx template. You can name it whatever you want, whatever your naming policy is. So next we need to do is the next flag we have is metadata from file. This flag will take metadata from a file, and use that metadata to set up the VM instance. So the metadata file over here that we're providing here is there can be different kind of metadata files. Over here we're providing just a startup script. So once our machine is up, our VM instance has been created, we need to specify what we need to do on that VM instance. So initially you created a startup file. So here we can use that startup.sh file and mention it as a startup script. So once our VM instances come up, they can run this script and they can easily install nginx server on it. So yeah, any doubt in this step, do tell me if you have any doubt. So I guess you guys don't have a doubt. So I'll be proceeding with the next step. So once you run this command, you will be getting an output something like this, and an instance template will get created. So next, what we need to do is gcloud compute target pool create nginx pool. So what is a target pool? So we have already created a group of instances, but we need a way to identify them as one. We know that it's a group, but there is no way to club them together. We have not specified that these group of instances are part of one group. So in order to provide an interface to that group of instances, we need to create something called a target pool, or you can just call it a pool, instance pool, whatever you want to call it. So over here what we're trying to do is we just trying to take that bunch of instances and group them together in order to make a pool out of them. So the command to do that, what is a pool? So basically you can consider pool it's just like a group, but it's just a another way of saying a group. So a group of instances, when clubbed together and when an interface is provided to interact with them, then together as a whole, it's called a pool. You can, if you want to go into depths with what is a pool, and you can always refer the GCP documentation. They have decent. I will not say it's very really good, but some of the documentation is good. So you can always go there and get into the peculiarities of the thing. So depth of the thing. So whatever you want, if you want to learn extra. So you need not worry about a target pool. It's just we're clubbing all the VM instances we created earlier, and so we are clubbing all the VM instances that we want to create later on, and we want to specify that these VM instance group. So the instance group will belong to this pool, which we have named over here as nginx pool. So gcloud compute target pool create nginx pool. So what we are doing over here, I did not, you already know what gcloud does. Compute, you already know. So target pool. So what target pool does is basically we're specifying that target. We need to create a pool, a target pool basically, and we simply need to.
हेलो, अभी पूरा मत कर, अभी पूरा लैब मत बता. फाइनल टाइम में बताना पूरा। अभी प्रीति तो आई नहीं, इंट्रोडक्शन दे अपना।
अच्छा, ओके। इंट्रोडक्शन तो मैंने दी थी, मैं दोबारा से दूंगा, मतलब कि मैं कौन हूँ ये बस।
हाँ हाँ, एक बार वापस इंट्रोडक्शन दे दे। दो इंट्रोडक्शन देना, एक जब तू स्टार्टिंग पे आ रहा है, प्रीति नहीं आ रही है उस समय,
अच्छा,
और अगर प्रीति नहीं आएगी उस समय तू नहीं आएगा तो फिर सीधा आएगा अपने स्पीकर के टाइम में जब तेरा चांस आएगा, तो उस समय भी तेरे को
ठीक है
इंट्रोडक्शन
ठीक है
देना
तो
पड़ेगा।
ठीक है।
ठीक है, तो अभी इंट्रोडक्शन दे।
Okay. So a very good afternoon to everyone, and I hope you're all doing well. So today, DSCCU is bringing you a session on the first quest of 30 days of Google Cloud, and the first quest is named getting started, create and manage cloud resources. So we'll be conducting a total of 4 labs today. Two of them will be conducted by my teammate Preeti Bhatia, and two of them will be taken by me. So my teammate Preeti Bhatia will be taking, first and second labs, and I'll be taking the third and fourth lab. So over to Preeti for starting the first and second lab. ये मेरा पहला इंट्रोडक्शन है। बस इतना ही था ना, या अच्छा डीएससी के बारे में ही बताना था ना।
हाँ हाँ
हेलो।
हाँ, डीएससी के बारे में बता दे। मतलब पता नहीं क्या ही है, भाटिया को आना चाहिए था, अभी आ नहीं रही है तो। हाँ, डीएससी का बता। श्रेयांश कहाँ है?
पता नहीं, मैं स्क्रीन शेयर करूँगी, मैं क्या करूँ फिर, बताओ मैं बताऊँ
हाँ,
कि
डीएससी के
दोबारा
बारे में बता
स्टार्ट।
दे। मतलब पता नहीं क्या ही है, भाटिया को आना चाहिए था, अभी आ नहीं रही है तो।
चल ठीक है, मैं दोबारा से स्टार्ट करता हूँ इनिशियल इंट्रोडक्शन जो अगर मतलब भाटिया ने इंट्रोड्यूस कर दिया तो। सो a very good afternoon to all of you. So I hope you're all doing well, and the lockdown is treating you well. So today we are going to conduct a session on the first quest of 30 days of Google Cloud, and this this quest is एक से मैं क्या बोलूं, मतलब क्या डीएससी के लिए क्या बोलूं कि ये क्वेस्ट क्या हो कि हम, हाँ दिस ओके गॉट इट। दिस क्वेस्ट इज बीइंग ऑर्गेनाइज्ड बाय DSCCU. So DSCCU is a developer student community for Chandigarh University, and if you want to become a part of it, the link for the same will be in the comment box. I do wish you join our community and become a part of this amazing community. So yeah, so today there will be total of 2 speakers, and we'll be conducting in total of 4 labs. So first 2 labs will be taken by my teammate Preeti Bhatia, and she'll be taking your first and second lab. And I'm Swanim Dogar, and I'll be taking your third and fourth labs. ठीक है।
हेलो।
बोल, क्या कुछ दिक्कत थी
ठीक है, डी
दोबारा?
और
हाँ सही है।
डेज ऑफ क्लाउड और उसके बारे में बता।
क्या किसके बारे में?
30 डेज ऑफ क्लाउड वाला प्रोग्राम और लैब्स के बारे में थोड़ा सा बता के आगे बढ़ जाना।
तो वो भी बताओ कि कौन कौन से लैब्स करने वाले हैं, मतलब उसमें मतलब टोटल मतलब समरी में हम क्या कौन कौन से लैब्स करने वाले हैं, उनमें क्या क्या होने वाला है।
हाँ,
थोड़ा एक्सटेंसिव नहीं
मैं
हो गया
बता।
इतना ज्यादा कि यही बताएगा? अब यही कर लेगा तो फिर भाटिया को रखा ही क्यों, इसी को करवा लेते हैं इवेंट यार।
अगर इनकेस अगर प्रीति स्टार्टिंग में नहीं आ पाई तो उसके रिप्लेसमेंट में स्वर्णिम स्टार्ट कर देगा और फिर अभिषेक कंटिन्यू कर लेगा, या फिर अभिषेक अगर रहेगा तो अभिषेक कर लेगा।
एक बार अभिषेक से भी करवा लो ना प्रैक्टिस, क्योंकि मतलब वो प्रीति का सब्स्टिट्यूट है तो
अभिषेक से कराता हूँ ना, अभिषेक अभी है, अभिषेक को
अच्छा।
करता हूँ। अनुष्टुप अभी एक ट्राई करेगा लाइव।
भैया वेट, मैं आपको बता रहा हूँ। मैं ना वो ये मेरा सेट नहीं हो रहा है, पता नहीं क्यों मेरा ना नेट ड्रॉप कर रहा है। बस मैं सेट करके आपको बता रहा है आपको।
ठीक है, कर ले फिर। विवेक एक बार प्रीति को फोन करके पूछ ले, बोल तो रही कि उसका लाइट नहीं। अच्छा, ये सेकंड वाला क्रेडिट्स कितने क्रेडिट्स का? 5 क्रेडिट्स का है ना ये? बाद वाला
सेकंड
जो है
वाला क्या,
तेरा
दोनों 5
नेटवर्क और लोड कुबरनेट्स 5 क्रेडिट का
कुबरनेटिस वाला
थोड़ी
भी
है।
5 का ही है। नहीं 5 का नहीं है, शायद 1 का ही है वो, शायद 1 का ही है वो। चैलेंज लैब 5 क्रेडिट की है।
तो मैं बोल रहा फाइनल इटरेशन में एक बार क्रेडिट्स अगर यूज करके करेगा तो वो वाला एक क्रेडिट वाला कर लेना। 5 क्रेडिट्स यूज मत करना, एक क्रेडिट यूज कर लेना।
मैं समझा नहीं, मैं तो क्या बोल के रहे।
फाइनल टाइम में जब प्रेजेंट करेगा ना
और
अभी
जी
हाँ
उस समय
अच्छा, मतलब तू
तब।
तू बोल रहा है मैं कुबरनेटिस वाली एक्चुअल लैब अभी कंडक्ट करूँ, ये बोल रहा तू?
हाँ हाँ, ये बोल
अच्छा
रहा
ठीक
हूँ।
है।
अबे सुन सरनेम, वो कौन सा एक लैब था जिसमें तेरे को एक अलग से शेल खोलना पड़ता है? वो वर्चुअल मशीन वाला ही था ना, जो वर्चुअल मशीन को एक्सेस करना पड़ता है हम लोग को?
हाँ अलग से ऐसे सेट करते हैं उसमें, वो वर्चुअल मशीन वाला ही था।
अरे नहीं, तू विंडो शेयर कर रहा है ना, तो फिर वो तो सेपरेट विंडो में खुलता है, तो फिर वो प्रॉब्लम नहीं करेगा, वो तो
तो मेरे
शो
लिए
नहीं
वो
करेगा फिर।
कुबरनेटिस में कुछ नहीं होता है, वो वाला काम कुछ नहीं होता है।
कुबरनेटिक्स और
ठीक है
लोड बैलेंसर में नहीं था ना, ये भाटिया का होगा।
नहीं 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 नहीं, भाटिया का है वो।
भाई लगा भी तो गलत किया। उसका क्या सीन है, आना है कि नहीं उसने?
मैं करूँगा अकाउंट
इंट्रोडक्शन
2 मिनट में करता हूँ, एक सेकंड।
मैगी बना, तू बना मैगी, मैं नहीं बना रहा।
अभिषेक इंट्रोडक्शन दे देगा अभी, और कैमरा ऑन कर ले इंट्रोडक्शन के लिए अभी। अच्छा, कैमरा सेटअप हुआ नहीं तेरा, ठीक है, ऐसे इंट्रोडक्शन दे अभिषेक।
कुछ लिखा हुआ है क्या कि ऐसे बोल दो?
ऐसे ही बोल,
किसी के पास
और लिख के रखना, तो
क्या
लिख
क्या
के रख लेना अपने पास में, रहेगा।
क्या क्या बोलना है, एक बार लिस्ट कर देना, क्या क्या चीज बोलनी है।
इंट्रोडक्शन में पहले तो अपने बारे में थोड़ा सा बता दे कि क्या है
हाँ
क्लब डीएससी के बारे में, ज्यादा बता मत। 30 डेज ऑफ क्लाउड के प्रोग्राम के बारे में थोड़ा सा बता दे, और स्टार्टिंग में डायरेक्ट शुरू मत हो जाए कि आई एम अभिषेक, मैं ये कर रहा हूँ। थोड़ा सा इंटरेक्ट कर ले ये व्यूअर से, वो कमेंट सेक्शन में पूछ लेना कि कैसा चल रहा है सबका, उस टाइप का कुछ।
ठीक है, कितनी देर के लिए करना? 5 मिनट?
ज्यादा नहीं,
कितना?
छोटा सा इंट्रोडक्शन, बहुत ज्यादा इंट्रोडक्शन, बड़ा इंट्रोडक्शन नहीं देना, छोटा सा इंट्रोडक्शन देना और फिर लैब स्टार्ट करना है।
ठीक है। So guys, we are going to start our lab. So first I want to introduce myself. So I'm Abhishek Yadav. I'm a third year student in Chandigarh University in CSE branch. And this lab is being so this lab has been done by DSC CU, Developer Student Club. So for I think you all have enrolled for a 30 days cloud program. So how many of you have done first lab till now? The first one. So the first lab, which is a tour of Quick Labs and Cloud Google Cloud, is a self-explanatory lab. So you need to do it by your own. There are only MCQ and some text to read. So this is a basic of how to manage this cloud platform. So we are not covering this in this session. So we are going to start with creating a virtual machine. So I guess most of you are from first and second year. So you may be familiar, you may not be familiar with Linux. So we are going to use some Linux commands. So do not be afraid of that. So it's really you can compare it with the CMD of Windows, command prompt of Windows. These commands are a little different. So it's really simple. You are going to enjoy it. So and yeah, the first lab is free. So please do this before starting with the second lab. This will give you all the introduction about the current platform. So yeah, we are going to start with our first lab, creating a virtual machine. काफी है.
हाँ लैब करा लिया अभिषेक, फिर कंटिन्यू कर लैब.
अभी तो कहते मैं लैब तो भी कर चुका हूँ मैं.
पता नहीं, फिर एक दिन श्रेयांश को आने दो, वो देखा.
अभी लैब ये मत कर, वो फाइनल इटरेशन में अभिनंदन का अकाउंट मिल जाएगा तो उससे कर लेना दूसरा वाला. अनुस्तुप रेडी?
हाँ रेडी, बट मेरा वीडियो नहीं है, मतलब वीडियो का वही प्रॉब्लम है मेरे सिस्टम पे.
वो फाइनल इटरेशन में अभिनंदन का अकाउंट मिल जाएगा तो उससे कर लेना दूसरा वाला. अनुस्तुप सॉरी वो
हाँ हेलो.
कौन था? हाँ अनुस्तुप रेडी है?
हाँ रेडी तो हूँ, बट वो मेरा वीडियो नहीं ऑन होगा, मतलब वीडियो का ये प्रॉब्लम है थोड़ा लैपटॉप में.
चल ठीक है, अभी वीडियो ऑन मत करेंगे, फाइनल इटरेशन अभी वापस प्रैक्टिस करेंगे शाम को, तो उस समय करना होगा 9 से 10.
ठीक है.
उस समय सबको वीडियो ऑन करना होगा, तो कर सकता है.
अच्छा.
अभिषेक तेरा खाली कैमरा नहीं है तो देख ले, अगर कहीं से हो सकता है तो कर ले.
संडे तक कर लूंगा मैं.
चल ठीक है फिर. अनुस्तुप रेडी?
मैं वो वाला लैब ही करूँ ना, ये वाला? या
हाँ ये वाला.
मैं ये वाला यहाँ से लैब का करूँ ना, मतलब कोई भी चूज कर सकता हूँ ना मैं, या फिर वो HTTP नोड बैलेंसर वाला?
स्वर्णम इसको बता दे कौन कौन सा लैब है, वही वाला लैब.
या हेलो.
अरे हाँ, ये कुबरनेटिस या फिर लोड बैलेंसर में से कोई एक करा दे, देख लेते हैं जिसमें तो कंफर्टेबल है. अगर फॉर सम रीजन अगर मैं नहीं आता हूँ उस दिन, तो तेरे को दोनों कराने पड़ेगी, तो तेरे को दोनों पे थोड़ा सा रिव्यू देकर रखना.
ओके ठीक है, तो कुबरनेटिस वाला मैं भी बोल देता हूँ.
ठीक है.
So hi everyone, hope you are doing well. So here I am Anustup from DSCCU. So now right now I will be just conducting a hands-on of the lab of Kubernetes. Before we start, hope you are all doing well and attempted this kind of first labs. Just a little brief about myself. I was former lead machine learning engineer at a US company OMDina and former air researcher at IIT Bombay, winter air intern at IIT Patna. So yeah, so before we start, I have just a brief idea about what is Kubernetes. Everyone is right now dealing with the concepts of containerization in a layman's language. If we want to judge what do you mean by containerization, that means specifically you are working in your local operating system and you are dealing with a huge source of data. but you can't manage that big data inside your local operating system, and you need a separate OS to deal with the data for better computational techniques. So that kind of concept deals with containerization. Containerization is all about like working with some kind of virtual systems that will be taking care of your computability and data run efficiency. So specifically right now there are two containerization techniques that we deal right now in the market. One is through Docker and that is through Kubernetes. So the Kubernetes here, we are going to deploy that kind of containerization techniques through Kubernetes over the Google Cloud Platform. Generally all kind of clouds used to provide a operating system like interface or operating system like appearance like to deploy that kind of GKE. So yeah, so specifically right now what will be your first step? Like other things, like first you have to do some sort of setups like the previous speakers told. Sign in into your Google account, just start your lab and go into console. Just you have to access your Cloud Shell. Cloud Shell is nothing but a like appearance that will be just giving you an access of the command line interface to communicate with your cloud servers. So yeah, so when you are done with that, you have to do some kind of previous setups again, just like the previous step, like authentication, snatching out the lists and setting up your project ID, right? So for the first thing will be that since the clouds is getting differentiability, the clouds having a big differentiability, whether we are speaking of AWS or GCP, on the basis of what kind of regions we're looking forward to, because there are many services in a cloud that is differing from one region to another, and every cloud computing companies are having some sort of data centers. Like in India, if you're in India, you can access this much of service that is being controlled by your data center of the GCP data center at Bangalore. That kind of things takes place. So first thing you need to check your what kind of place you are right now into, like what is your zone and region. That is the most important thing to access any cloud service. That differs actually. So here are the two interfaces, like two command lines that you can just here you have to simply copy and paste this thing over your Cloud Shell, and that will be doing the thing. Just you can choose over your zone, or you can just choose in a default zone or any other zone if you want to anything, right? So now here it is simply defining to create a Kubernetes cluster. Kubernetes cluster is mean, if anyone is knowing, just a little example I want to snatch out with Docker. If we, whenever we work with Docker, so specifically, suppose let us take an example of a data. Suppose you want to host a data in any cloud platform. Simply what you go used to take a data antenna and then host every kind of data resources over there. And so suppose you want to work with a particular data in your local operating system. You get the data downloaded from any source, and simply you can run it in your local operating system through some commands, right? But what happens if you're using Docker or Kubernetes? First example of Docker. If you're getting hands-on with a Docker, then you need to create a container. Container is nothing but like some house, like you are building your own house and setting up different kinds of other things inside your house. That's it, like placing the furniture, creating the rooms, that kind of thing. Same thing comes inside a Docker as if. Same thing is all about Kubernetes cluster. Like the same, like in the case of the Docker, if you're working with the Google Cloud Docker, then in that case you will be working with like Docker containers. It will be simply giving you some kind of like .sh files that you can execute anywhere. And if you're working with Kubernetes, you will be working with some sort of node architectures. That node architectures is being interconnected by the clusters. That's it. Okay, and yeah, one more concept is over there, how it gets communicated with your cloud. There is a little structural comparison in between that. There is something like cloud, in between the cloud and the local operating system, there is something called as a hypervision that deals with the virtual machine concepts, right? So specifically, his kind of cluster concepts or any concept relating to containerization is deal with that kind of hypervision. Hypervision is nothing but basically layman's example is being provided by many resources. Like you simply like you are living inside your house, so and someone is outside your house and just locating at you. Just the person is trying to see you what you are doing inside your house, and the person is seeing you just by your eyes. That's it. So specifically, if you're relating it into a computer science concept, then suppose you are just inside your house. That means you're into any sort of using any kind of cloud appliances, like you are into a cloud environment, and there is someone like outside over there. It is some kind of anyone is trying to communicate with you through your cloud anywhere from the outside, and through some kind of hypervision techniques that several things takes place within inside the virtual machines. So here, when you are set with the location, Now you will be getting the thing like your cluster name is created. You can take any default cluster name. You can generate your cluster name anytime. That's not an issue. Singly, you need to pass this single line to create that kind of things over there, right? And location, everything will be details. So only will be provided over there. One thing you need to check. Sometimes if you are just attempting this kind of practice labs, it's okay, but sometimes the Google used to keep some sort of customizations over these places, like change the versions or change the location, change the default location or regions. So here you need to walk in the previous section for your challenge lab specifically. Now the main best things of the cloud, there are 3 to 4 types of cloud actually. It depends on some kind of software mechanism that is called SaaS types of cloud, right? So specifically for a layman's language, the cloud is a protected environment, and that kind of for that kind of protected environment, you need to have some sort of like protections. Like protections is not in the sense of like I'm just keeping some sort of passwords. Actually, if you need to access any kind of cloud appliance, you should have some kind of credentiality. Credentiality is simply there are some kinds of keys that can be generated to access that particular cloud. If I am having that particular key, and I can access that particular cloud over there, right? So specifically, you can generate that kind of credentiality over here to access your Kubernetes cluster. Because this kind of clusters, like this kind of clusters, or whether containers is having all kind of sources of your data, sometimes credential data, everything. So like doing authentication part of credentiality is the most important thing, right? Now here comes the deployment phase. The deployment phase concept is very easy. Like sometime what we do, just a basic example, you are trying to make a website and you want to host your website, right? And suppose you are making a React.js website and you want to host that particular website in somewhere else, like in some domains or anywhere. Like, so you can just create a particular cluster regarding that. You can upload your code base, anything over there, and you can just go to the deployment. Like the same concept, any of us used to deploy our web apps through Heroku. So Heroku at the backend also, like for Hello Series kind of deployment type of technology, right? And if you're into machine learning, or if you're into data science, then like we used to use many like this kind of Kubernetes or Docker techniques in many places. And again, a big example of the deployment type of cloud things, like if you are trying to do something out of cloud native techniques, like you want to create a native environment for a particular cloud dealing with some kind of open source project for CNCF and anywhere, so you can just work on that particular deployment techniques over there. So the simple thing you need to take care of is passing this command line over there, and you can see your app will be deployed over here, right? And now the main thing is that when there will be the deployments like takes place, obviously there should be some sort of server interaction. So specifically, you need to set up your server. The setting up your server is the special thing like GCP used to provide. Whenever we work in other clouds like AWS or Azure, like there is something different concept. They will be giving you some kind of default server mechanism. But yeah, here you can communicate this with this kind of thing. The best part of this particular thing, or the real life usability in your projects, are if you are trying to integrate some sort of API and you need to cross test your API with the help of an API testing platform called as Postman. So you need to integrate it with your port or any other kind of thing. Like if you need to customize your port, or if you need to customize your server points, then you can take care of this. Here is specifically this particular command line is interfering with your manipulating of your server, right? Setting up your server. Here you can see about the entire details of your IP address, cluster IP, everything present over there. Like this external IP is the particular IP address where your entire website is being hosted off, right? And here you can see your website is being hosted on. So it's just about that. And you can also clean up your cluster, because since you're using obviously a free account, so a limited space or limited cluster quantity is being allowed to you. So specifically, if you're just trying to host a 5 to 6 cluster, maybe they may block your account, just you can delete it. Or if you may sometime, if you're working in a project and you don't need this particular cluster, then you can delete it, and then you are just done with your like first lab. So if you are having any sort of questions or anywhere, just you can ask them. Just any question, you can just ask. बस यही करना था ना. Hello. हेलो
हाँ हाँ हाँ
हेलो
हाँ,
सीटीआई
वो
करना था ना?
दिक्कत है सॉरी।
हाँ अभी यही कराना था, अगर अगला लैब कराना हो तो वो करा लेना, और
हेलो
ट्राई करना कि बैक स्टेज यूट्यूब पे लाइव नहीं हो जाए। बहुत ही बढ़िया, कॉन्फिडेंस बहुत अच्छा था, और थोड़ा स्लो
थोड़ा
जाना,
स्लो
बहुत स्पीड
बोलना
जा रहा
बस,
था।
थोड़ा ऐसे। हाँ
हाँ हाँ ठीक ठीक।
और एक चीज ट्राई करना कि थोड़ा इंटरेक्टिव हो जाने का बीच बीच में, नहीं तो ऐसा लगेगा कि एक फ्लो में बीबी की क्लासेस चल रही है, तो वो चीज नहीं होनी चाहिए।
ओके ओके।
अबे तू यूट्यूब पर रहता तो क्वेश्चन पूछा करना, मैं यहाँ से शो कर दिया करूँ।
अरे ठीक है, अभी कुछ खास क्वेश्चंस था भी नहीं। वैसे एक चीज है, अपने फर्स्ट लैब करवा रहे हैं, फर्स्ट लैब बहुत बच्चे कर चुके हैं, फर्स्ट क्वेस्ट।
ये एक चीज नहीं, काफी पहले बोल दिया था।
तो ठीक है फिर, अभी के लिए सेशन रखते हैं।
हम्म।
और कुछ बचा रह गया? अपना इंट्रोडक्शन हो गया, इनका एक प्रैक्टिस हो गया, फाइनल प्रैक्टिस सीधा शाम को 9 से।
आज भी लीड और को लीड आए नहीं।
लीडर आ गया है और को लीड आ गया है।
कहाँ?
कमेंट सेक्शन में देखना है।
हाँ भाई ठीक है, जरूर।
अरे वो यहाँ 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 भी आ जाएगा, अभी उसका वो मीट चल रहा है।